Groovy. Be my victim.
The old cynicism is gone.
Hello everyone, Josh Myers here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the original Saw from 2004.
Mommy, there's a man in my room.
Are you sure he's not just hiding in your imagination?
Critics are calling Saw the year's scariest film.
He finds ways for his victims to kill themselves.
The suspense is breathtaking.
He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through.
Your skin will crawl right off your bones.
Oh my God!
Saw.
There's no such thing as the bad man.
Rated R.
Saw stars Cary Elwes, Leigh Whannell, Monica Carter, Michael Emerson, Tobin Bell, Danny Glover, and it's directed by James Wan. The plot of Saw is that you see these two men wake up in this prehistoric bathroom. They have no idea how they got there, or what happened beforehand, or anything like that. Really, a lot of it is really just them trying to figure out how they got there, who put them there, and also they end up seeing there's a dead body laying in the middle of the floor in between them, and it basically turns out that there's a killer out there who actually put them in there, and this killer goes by the name of the Jigsaw Killer, in which he basically puts people in these sort of games or traps, really. And basically, you end up doing some sort of horrific thing to show that you appreciate your own life. This killer tries to teach his victims some moral lessons, while at the same time doing them in a very sadistic way. And yeah, so basically this movie is a whodunit story, trying to fill in the missing puzzle pieces, no pun intended, and try to figure out what is going on here.
Positives.
I feel like this is James Wan's best movie he's ever made, in my opinion. I've seen some of his other ones, and some of them range from just okay to just complete shit. And then you got this film, which was his first film he's ever done, really. Actually, they did a short film prior to this to showcase what they could do with, you know, the story and that to executives. I have checked out the short film. The short film is pretty good, actually. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on YouTube. I could put a link in the description for short film, but a lot of people are calling it the short film Saw 0.5. So just basically check it out. I'll, again, put a link in the description for the original short film. If you got the DVD, they do have the original short film on it. If you got that, then you can check it out on there. But if not, I'll put the link in the description again. I highly recommend checking out the short film. But yeah, I think James Wan really showed the potential for his talent in this movie. I really dug a lot of the camera work and the direction and everything. And I love the fact this is a very simple film, actually. It's not overly complicated. It is a good mystery, actually. You're trying to figure out what's going on and everything. And they sometimes would intercut with flashbacks and that, showing, you know, very bits and pieces of what happened beforehand as the film moves along. And also, I do like the characters, especially because you mainly follow the two main characters here who are trapped in the room, being Dr. Lawrence Gordon, portrayed by Cary Elwes, and Adam, portrayed by Leigh Whannell, the movie's writer. In which I do know Leigh Whannell would eventually write even more of James Wan's movies and even star in them. He starred in the Insidious movies as Lynn Shays' Paranormal Investigators. He would eventually start directing movies, with his directorial debut being Insidious Chapter 3. But the one thing I will say that is this film is a very low-budget movie. To be honest, I noticed when watching it, for me, honestly, there are two popular horror films that spawn franchises. My personal two favorites, as far as horror movies that eventually spawn franchises, are the original Halloween and Saw. It's like a literal tie. And a lot of it, I think, is because there's a lot of similarities to both films if you really look at it. Like, the original Halloween was a low-budget film, got this newcomer, John Carpenter, fresh from film school, and it had to be low-budget. It was a very simplified movie, but it had some very effective scares. The cinematography in that was really good. The music was really good. Just everything about it was, for the most part, really good. The acting, especially from people like Donald Pleasence, and that was really good. Also, from my point of view of Saw, is that there's a lot of parallels to what I just mentioned about Halloween. They coming from newcomer with James Wan and Leigh Whannell. They're both newcomers. They had to do this with a low budget, And the cinematography in that is really good too. The music, really good. Most of the acting is really good. And they throw in big name actors in there like Carrie Elways and Danny Glover. Kind of like what they did with the original Halloween by throwing in Donald Pleasence in there. There are a lot of parallels to the original Halloween and Saw, which is probably why I like both of them equally. But again, what James Wan was able to do with this film, especially for it being his first theatrically made movie, and with such a low budget, and even a short time frame, you know, which that's also another parallel to the original Halloween, is that the original Halloween took about, I think, 5 weeks or something like that to film, and this one took, I think, even shorter, 18 days to film. That's not much, but I think with all that said, James Wan was able to create an amazing movie out of it with what he had to work with. They tried to throw a twist at the end of this, which, if you guys haven't seen the original Saw, I'm not going to spoil for you whatsoever. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. I still don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, because I know there's a lot of people who still haven't seen Saw. But yeah, another positive is the killer in this is really interesting too. I mean, you don't really get to know who he is or anything like that until, again, the end. You know, but you really get to find out what kind of killer this guy is, how sadistic this guy can be. And plus you got amazing voice, which again, I'm not going to give away who voiced Jigsaw in this, because, you know, that would be an obvious spoiler. Because if you know the actor who portrayed Jigsaw, then you're going to know who the guy is. And knowing that, another thing I really dug was the pacing of this film. This movie is like almost 2 hours long, and it didn't felt like that whatsoever. It just seemed to fly by really fast, but at the same time, still took its time with, you know, the pacing in that. Like, as far as, you know, character and story development.
Negative.
Some of it has to be kind of the low-budget nature of this film. Sometimes they have to kind of fill in some shots with photos and that, and kind of epilepsy montages and that, because of the fact, you know, low budget. And they didn't have enough time to really get every single shot in there, so that's what they decided to do. And also flashes of, you would see a flash and there's a photo and that, and yeah, I could tell that was really kind of cheap. Also sometimes, I mean, most people would probably not notice this, but sometimes they would switch out an actor and just only show, like there were some shots where Leigh Whannell was in other scenes as a different character, and you could kind of tell in one shot, really. It may not be that noticeable for a lot of people. I will give credit that James Wan at least tried to hide it as best as he could. And also there's some other, you know, kind of technical stuff too, like, for example, it turns out there's a security camera watching them, and there's somebody watching them. Getting, like, coverage of the whole bathroom in that. Like, this wide-angle coverage from both sides, you know, showing both Adam and Dr. Gordon. At the time, I don't think were any real security cameras that could do that. I'm not sure if there's even any that could do that now, unless it maybe potentially a 360 security camera. That's the most I could see as far as by today's standards, but back then, in the early 2000s, definitely not. Also, there's other stuff that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either, like, you know, they're given hacksaws and that, and they tried cutting through the chains and that didn't work. And I'm like, why didn't they try to cut through those rusty pipes? Could have been nice to try. Also, other stuff, like there's a phone that they end up hold of. Dr. Gordon's like, this was meant to receive calls, not make them. And I'm like, does that even work? Like, did that even work back in the day, like back in the early 2000s? I was around during that time, but I don't know if you could have really done that with phones, where you could just make a phone to receive calls, but not make calls. And knowing that all phones really have the capacity to dial 911, no matter what the situation is with the phone. And there's just certain stuff like that kind of lessens the movie a bit for me after rewatching it. And also, even though I thought the acting was really good, you do get some, for me, the acting ranges from either okay, like for example, Leigh Whannell, I'm sure he was trying, but I think it was okay. His acting was okay, nothing horrible. I've seen worse acting, but nothing great either. And also ranges to overacting, like for example with Carrie Elways. Don't you stop, you bastard! I know it's you son of a bitch! Allie? And also, even Donald Glover's acting could be a little bit overacted, like Danny Glover's is a detective, like one of the detectives on the case, and he's like, what are you doing there? Waiting for the doctor. I'm waiting for the doctor. There are some cringy acting in this at times. And also there's certain, like, again, to the cheapness of the film a bit, you know, like the low budget nature of the film. It's like there's a car chase at the end of the movie, and it's really done with it with, like, the way they did was really a poor man's way of doing a car chase, and I know how they did it. Really, they basically just put the cars in a garage somewhere and just sped up the footage, kind of shaking the cars a little bit. But other than that, those are my only complaints with Saw. So with that said, I'm going to give Saw a 4 out of 5 stars. I think that the film still holds up at least relatively well to this day. But looking back on it, there are some issues I did have with the film that I think if I were to have made a film like that, I would have fixed. In fact, I did make a film like that. I made a short film, actually, that was kind of sort of a reboot called Saw Reborn. If you want to check that out, I'll put that in a link in the description so that you can check it out. As well as the link to James Wan's short film that he made before this film, which I highly recommend that one. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and he doesn't want to.